A former Metropolitan Police Detective Sergeant faced a gross misconduct hearing on the 16th of December in which it was determined that had he still been serving, he would have been dismissed. Former Detective Sergeant 54-year-old Stephen Redgewell, who was also Deputy General Secretary and Treasurer of the Metropolitan Police Federation, developed an inappropriate relationship with a colleague that he was representing in his role as Federation rep and sent her inappropriate messages. Messages said to have included mention of her race in what's called a sexual context. The IOPC concluded its investigation into Redgewell in August 2018. The IOPC said in December 2017, following a referral from the Metropolitan Police Service, we began examining DS Redgewell's actions in his capacity as a Federation representative when he assisted the woman who was in a vulnerable position relating to a work issue. We looked at whether the contact between the former officer and the woman was appropriate, whether he used his position to influence or delay work matters, and whether his colleague was treated differently owing to her ethnicity. As part of our investigation, IOPC investigators interviewed DS Redgewell. The woman was also interviewed. We examined more than 2,000 text messages between the former officer and the woman he was representing, finding evidence that he sent numerous racially and sexually charged messages. The messages were sent between October 2015 and September 2017, with the majority of messages being sent in January and February 2017. We passed a copy of our final report and its findings to the Metropolitan Police Service, who agreed with us that the former officer had a case to answer for gross misconduct and arranged for a misconduct panel to hear the evidence. DS Redgewell resigned from the Metropolitan Police Service in November 2018. Now, although I can't find exactly what many of the messages were said to have said, there is mention that former DS Redgewell sent at least one message calling the woman an Asian babe and suggested that she should leave her husband. I can't confidently say that none of the other messages were worse or not, but this, in my opinion, isn't exactly racially charged, as in discriminatory. Inappropriate? Absolutely, without doubt. He was supposed to be representing the woman in an official capacity, and much like many other senior position plod, he has abused that position and been wholly inappropriate in his conduct. But calling someone an Asian babe isn't exactly referring to the woman's race in a sexual context. If that in itself was discriminatory, then half the world's porn sites need to prepare themselves for a letter from the police over their site names. I personally think it's completely unprofessional in any role to call a colleague an Asian babe or any mix of the two, but we want professionals in our police forces, so punishment is warranted here in my opinion, but making it about race and sexism when they don't say anything about other comments and only mention the Asian babe comment seems a little bit ridiculous. Now, don't think I'm trying to generalise his behaviour, because I am not. It's been said that former Detective Sergeant Redgewell also sent messages which could be categorised as anti-Semitic, racist, homophobic and sexist, and he also sent pictures of a sexual nature, non-sexual pictures of himself and photographs of another colleague that he referred to as a Muslim babe. Now, I feel the same way about the Muslim babe comment as I do about the Asian babe comment, so I'm not going to waste your time going over that again. But suffice it to say, I think it's certainly inappropriate, but he was hardly being prejudicial, which the dictionary describes as an unfavourable opinion or feeling formed beforehand or without knowledge, thought or reason. Any preconceived opinion or feeling, either favourable or unfavourable, unreasonable feelings, opinions or attitudes, especially of a hostile nature, regarding an ethnic, racial, social or religious group. And it was hardly discriminatory, which the dictionary describes as the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of race, age, sex or disability. By all accounts, it simply sounds like Redgewell fancied the woman, which is, considering his role at the time, completely inappropriate, as I said, but without seeing what else was said, I can't say that these comments on their own are anything more. However, it could well be that there were comments that the IOPC couldn't publish due to the content, so I'm certainly not saying he wasn't saying anything else that was racist in nature or discriminatory, but my opinions are based solely on what's been published by the IOPC. IOPC Regional Director for London, Sal Nassim, said, at a time when a vulnerable colleague needed assistance, Stephen Redgewell, who had risen to the senior position of Deputy General Secretary and Treasurer within the Metropolitan Police Federation, abused his position by behaving in a predatory manner. This type of appalling behaviour corrodes the public's trust in policing, and I have no doubt will appall fellow officers, the wider policing community, and members of the public. The former officer abused his senior position to send racially and sexually explicit messages to a colleague when she was at her most vulnerable. The colleague told us that he manipulated her and made her feel dependent on him to the extent she had to engage with him in order to receive the assistance she required from the Metropolitan Police Federation. Not only did former DS Redgewell breach the standards expected from him as a police officer, he breached the trust placed in him by the policing community to represent the Metropolitan Police Federation. These breaches were so serious, we note the panel would have dismissed him without notice had he still been a serving officer, and he will now be placed on the College of Policing's barred list. Big thank you to channel supporters, especially these guys. Your support is truly appreciated. Don't forget to like, share, comment and subscribe. Let me know your thoughts, as I know many of you will. And until next time, stay safe, look after each other, film the police and other officials.